Chapter 3: The Wave of Fortune. Before we begin, I want to preface by saying that this chapter contains a little more theory than the previous chapters. That said, the knowledge I present here directly aligns with my story, so let's refer to it more as practical theory. We will pick back up where we left off in Chapter 2 on our next go-around. I promise. The wave of fortune is all about getting into rhythm with reality and opening yourself up to receive all that is intended for you. Rather than focus on my past when I hadn't yet mastered the skill of reciprocity, I use practical examples from my current reality to show exactly how I've learned to dance with my world and the practices I use to keep myself in a place of receiving. The first time you feel the alternative space carrying you effortlessly to good fortune, you will truly understand the power of this modality. For me, it was the most significant aha moment along my transurfing journey to date. So, let's recap what we've covered so far. 1. Connecting to and trusting in the alternative space and higher variations. The night I spent alone after my marriage imploded, I knew something needed to change, but wasn't sure exactly what or how. The moment I realized my tight grip on reality and placed my trust in the not yet known, I heard the soft rustling of the morning stars telling me something higher awaited me. 2. Understanding the nature of pendulums and the art of the deal. This was displayed vividly in the previous chapter by my choice to defy societal standards and barter my personal resources in exchange for some green love at the strip club. 3. Balancing importance levels, removing attachment from whatever does not serve you, and redirecting your newfound energy towards which does. I effectively balanced my importance levels and attachments when I resolved to kick drugs and alcohol to the curb and focus instead on getting my jewelry business roaring. Consider the wave of fortune phenomenon a reward for managing the pendulums effectively in your reality, tuning into all that serves your higher and better good, and declaring your will to have, also known as allowing. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are or what for you constitutes success, positive gains, or hitting the jackpot. The wave of fortune will deliver whatever it is you personally deem valuable at any given point in space and time. Recall early on in my story when I used my special trick before a shift at Houston's to tune my frequency to a higher variation of reality. The gifts that followed in sequence, the promotion at work, Sam asking me to dinner, the $100 in my apron, were meaningful to me at the time. The wave of fortune rewards us each uniquely. The most valuable thing to know about the wave of fortune is that you do not dictate when it rolls in. Myriad moments of cause and effect precede the phenomenon, and our silly little human minds cannot perceive all that exists behind the metaphysical scenes. Cause and effect is an intricate system. We do not get to choose when effect arrives, only whether or not we maintain awareness of how we're shaping cause. The induced transition, which we will explore more deeply in the next chapter, is essentially the exact opposite of the wave of fortune. I jokingly refer to it as the wave of misfortune. Your spiral up to the wave of fortune initiates in the exact same way as does your spiral down to the induced transition. Both start gaining momentum when you deem something a fact of your reality. You always have the choice between planting a little optimistic seed like, I'm a lucky person and the best is coming my way, or a little foreboding seed like, oh, I'm a loser and everything is going to hell. But let's briefly review the four mechanisms of reality creation: theory, thoughts, frequency, and action. Theory: the narrative you choose as the driver of your personal storyline. Dramatically shifting my theories propelled me to great heights at the strip club and subsequently within my jewelry business. I prematurely deemed myself the hottest and most successful stripper at the Rhino. Note that it does not matter whether your theory is realistic or not. You must establish your theory first to receive supporting evidence. My theory that I was sexy, successful, and on the up and up verged on delusional at the time. But when I became convinced of it, supporting evidence quickly showed up in my physical world to back me up. I could have just as easily told myself that my business was doomed. I didn't have the resources, and it was all a lost cause. If I'd chosen that theory, plenty of evidence would have shown up to back me there too. Either theory had the potential to materialize because there is evidence to support all theories. Thoughts. Reviewing your thoughts and then reconstructing and aligning them to support your theory. Had I continued running the old poverty mentality reel in my mind, I wouldn't have recognized the opportunities I was on the verge of receiving when they showed up. Thinking plays a big-time role in reality creation, just not in the way most people know. I've worked with plenty of people who've spent great quantities of time and energy repeating mantras and affirmations over and over in their minds to no avail. The reason reality refuses to budge in these cases is that the mantra repeaters don't necessarily believe what they're saying. You gotta say it like you mean it, man. Align your thoughts to your new theory, then move on to maintaining your frequency. Frequency. Your vibrational resonance. You've got to put yourself in the same vibrational ballpark as the thing you want. Lots of people want joy, appreciation, wealth, empowerment, freedom, and love, but are trapped in feelings of fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. You attract exactly what you are at a vibrational level. I now experience joy, appreciation, wealth, empowerment, freedom, and love, but only because I woke up, got a handle on my frequency, and trained myself to stay in resonance with the feelings I associate with those experiences. This meant and continues to mean limiting the time and energy I give to feeling fear, grief, depression, yada, yada, yada. Action. The steps you take toward your intention. Recall from the last chapter how exactly I weighed my options of hunkering down and consuming near infinite seasons of Breaking Bad or busting a move at the club. Moments like this are where the rubber meets the road, y'all. Are you willing to take clear, definitive action in the direction of your goal? I had two options. The first was to sit at home cuddled up on the couch with my theory that all was lost, ruminate over all the ways I was failing, and make a mental list of everything I had working against me. I could have remained vibrationally low, fallen prey to the familiarity of depression, and succumbed to inaction. The second was to trust in the alternative space by mixing up a powerful cocktail, equal parts new theory, progressive thinking, improved frequency, and higher action. Spend enough on your personal resources attaining and then keeping these high-frequency spirits in stock, and you will be prepared to catch a ride on the next wave of fortune that shows up in your layer of reality. This brings me to a fundamental axiom of reality creation, one that can be hard to hear if you're particularly susceptible to complacency, boredom, and/or laziness. We are never fixed in any one version of reality. We are always experiencing and always choosing between evolution and degradation. So which are you choosing in this exact moment? An individual may think they are experiencing permanence, when in fact what they are experiencing is something more akin to a vibrational balancing act. A small loss here, a small gain there, a depressive day here, a good time there. Your layer of reality will deliver the illusion of constancy when your ups and downs are relatively balanced. But the seeds required for movement in either direction are being planted at every turn. You gain access to new seeds by venturing out of your layer of reality. And what exactly are these seeds, you ask? They are events, information, things you hear, see, recognize, and realize. They are all the different variables you gain access to by breaking routine or remaining complacent within routine. As transurfers, we catch the wave of fortune by focusing our attention on the positive seeds in our layer of reality, and breaking routine to sniff out new ones when we've fully tapped our current sector. The wave of fortune begins with a little bit of movement and then gains momentum. At its natural peak, it crests and then cascades gently down and onto the bank. The metaphysical ocean of reality is alive with energy and currents that carry exactly what you desire. So ask yourself, are you drifting on a life raft lost at sea? Or are you centered on a surfboard, hands and feet in the water, ready to jump up and catch your perfect wave? Ideally, you sit on your board waiting for an initial energy surge. You must acknowledge this incoming wave to continue. You've prepared yourself for this moment, and now is your time to surf. You give the water a few good strokes, jump up into position, and anticipate the arrival of circumstances coming to carry you towards your intention. Revel in the experience of seeing the fruits of your labors materialized and allowing the wave to escort you to the end of the line. Then, ready yourself for another, and when that one dissipates, ready yourself for another. We've all bore witness to the wipeout of an epically talented surfer, yes? Well, this exists as a possibility for even the most advanced of transurfers as well. In a bit, I will teach you how to stay on your board for as long as possible, riding your wave to maximum benefit, so you don't wind up crashing or bailing out prematurely the next time one of these energy surges arrive. So here we are again, the 4 mechanisms of reality creation, pertaining specifically to the wave of fortune this time. They must be valuable or something. They are, because the whole of reality creation is accomplished via these 4 distinct mechanisms, and we must master them to surf our way toward the ultimate metaphysical jackpot, the wave of fortune. So please excuse the redundancy. I wouldn't reiterate this if I didn't feel that hammering it in wasn't totally fucking worth it. First, know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the wave will come. It always does if you've chosen it to be so. Next, you must acknowledge that your ideal higher variation of reality exists. Without sensually experiencing that version of reality, you cannot go there. This is the case for materializing all desirable versions of reality. Same goes for the undesirable versions of reality. Unfortunately, it is easier for most of us to believe in our heart of hearts that misfortune looms. You must train yourself to quiet these thoughts of misfortune when they arise. Instead, brazenly declare your will to have. Don't be shy. Bask in your audacious delusions. All the best awaits you. How many people do you know, seriously, count on your fingers and toes, who are totally tuned in to the negative? Watching the news all day, arguing with friends and family and romantic partners, complaining about their lives. Do you see them catching the wave of fortune? Something good might happen to them, sure, but it will most likely fall on deaf ears and end up being stored in their memory as a one-off. They'll say things like, "I just got lucky," or, "Well, that'll never happen again." They'll disregard the good fortune, and in doing so, basically tell their reality to go fuck itself and return to their comfortable crevice of dysfunction and low-grade humanity. The wave of fortune is an accumulation of good events. To experience the phenomenon, you must be aware of it and your worthiness to receive it. You must know how to invite it in, nurture it, and then set yourself up for the next wave after that one subsides. Secondly, your thoughts must be aligned with the wave of fortune. You, who ritually gives your attention and energy to negativity, you are not tuned in to the possibility of cascading good fortune and simply will not experience it if you keep on doing what you're doing. Reality just doesn't work like that. If you are busy thinking about that fight you just had with your spouse and exactly how they've got it all wrong, preparing your little speech that will surely convince them you're superior. I mean, come on, must I really explain this one any further? Notice good things. Notice all the ways your world is taking care of you, and do it now. Third, your actions must be in line with the wave of fortune. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but sitting on the couch watching Netflix for hours and hours every night does not align with the theory of someone who catches a wave of fortune. There is no world in which inactivity creates movement. This one is particularly difficult to highlight for those who haven't yet figured it out for themselves. To the folks unsure why they are struggling, are you perchance frozen in place? You've got to move, and your moves need to be productive. Do what you need to do to feel deserving of the wave of fortune. Side note, any reality creation artist, I won't name names, that says you can have it all without lifting a single finger is a goddamn liar. Materializing a new reality from the couch does not work. This is packaged and sold to the most desperate of souls, simply because it is a very easy sell. I can imagine the internal dialogue now. I could get into action, or I could buy this course for $199 and get everything I've ever wanted without doing anything? Easy choice. People really do this. I'm begging you to acknowledge your personal power. Don't be the foolish snail. And finally, your frequency must align with the wave of fortune. Frequency is the most valuable mechanism for realizing this phenomenon. Reality responds to us. It reflects whatever we emit. Our frequency is like a magnet, attracting like frequencies. High frequency will attract evidence to support higher theories, opportunities, advice, and help from others. I'm going to delve into frequency toward the end of this chapter. If there is one thing I consistently see people doing wrong in their reality creation practice, it is moving through the world with a shitty frequency. Let's get back to the seeds that start the waves. Seeds are everywhere, both positive seeds and negative seeds. Your reality has the capacity to make available in abundance little gems of encouragement to make your day and little bombs of destruction to break your day. Which you devour depends entirely on which version of reality you are highlighting with your thoughts, actions, and frequency. The good news is that these little seeds also serve as indicators. Train yourself to recognize compounding negative incidents as a cue to wake up and check your mechanisms. Eagerly acknowledge juicy little seeds of positivity when they show up and log them as the hints of encouragement that they are. This could be something as small as finding a coin on the ground or picking up a call from an unknown number and discover it is an old friend who has tracked you down. It could be overhearing strangers sharing their good news with one another on a train, receiving an unexpected check in the mail, or winning $5 on a scratch-off. Doesn't matter how seemingly insignificant the event may be. Recognize it, thank it, take it as a good omen. Anytime a pleasurable little thing happens and you declare, "There it is," you've initiated your next wave. It's like making sourdough bread. You need a starter. Acknowledging the sweetness of your everyday gives you a boost and tunes you into the frequency of the wave of fortune. This little practice will highlight a sector of reality where the prevalence of good things increases exponentially. Whoop, there it is. In Chapter 1, I depicted life tracks as stacked, horizontal, linear layers of reality. This is the visual I use to render the concept in a simple, easy-to-grasp way. Events and knowledge are examples of the kinds of variables that ribbon through our life tracks. Picture them like ladders and slides connecting the different variations of reality available to us. When we bump into unexpected variables, we've essentially diverted from our current path and begun traveling along one of these ribbons in an upward or downward direction. These ribbons move us to other life tracks or marry up with like variables and begin forming a new life track altogether. I am sure you've heard the saying that bad events come in threes. And isn't it so like us humans to focus on the negative? What they don't tell you is that the same is true for good events. Things comfortably multiply in the alternative space and within your layer of reality. You can learn to spur this effect and benefit from it if you so choose. Reality is much more malleable than we are typically led to believe. Over the years, I have built a trusting relationship with the wave of fortune because it has never not returned. If I ever find myself feeling hurried, I remind myself of this fact and ask myself why it would be any different this time. I sit back on my surfboard, notice all the good things around me, and allow reality's ocean of energy to buoy me while I wait for my opportunity to paddle out and catch the next wave. I do not pressure or make demands of my reality. I simply check in with how I'm engaging my four mechanisms and manage my reality accordingly, while my wave swells in the metaphysical world. Again, guiding theory, thoughts, actions, frequency. Today in my reality, the next wave's exact time of arrival remains unpredictable. But the unpredictability does not shake my faith that it will return. The uncertainty has become a stable part of my reality creation experience and is in large part what keeps me vigilant in my transurfing practice and curious about what's to come. I touched earlier on how the wave of fortune delivers whatever you personally deem valuable. For me, fortune doesn't always equal money. I plan for the wave to bring me information, insights, and ideas on how best to create something of value for the transurfing community. I expect opportunities for adventure and personal development, a rush of productivity, or an increase in creative drive. Remember, the goal is evolution. If you want something more, you've got to evolve to get it. If there was more available to you in your current variation, you'd already have it, see? When you evolve, you gain, and when you devolve, you lose. It's that simple, evolution or degradation. Don't evaluate everything you choose to pursue in life based on its money-making potential. Look at everything instead as an opportunity to evolve, improve your craft, or move outside your normal realm of activity. The money, or whatever else it is that you want, will follow. Being tuned to the frail of your soul is where it's at. Essentially, we experience this state of alignment when we have evolved to the highest variation of ourselves available to us at any given point in space and time. We arrive here by resolutely tuning away from standards set by pendulums and nurturing all the intricate aspects of our soul that make us special. The more I tune to the frail of my soul, the more I gain access to the wave of fortune. I will explore this concept at a deeper level in the Soul Frail chapter. Focus on developing yourself and learn how to work with this knowledge. Adopt a new, more supportive worldview and pay attention to the four mechanisms of reality creation. Forgetting why you are working toward your intention in the first place makes you vulnerable to pendulums, whose goal is to throw you off course and knock you back down to where you started. As I sit here, happily writing away at this book, I am respecting and adhering to the four mechanisms. Before I begin and as I write, I hold the theory at the forefront of my mind and imagine myself as a best-selling author who composes meaningful books to help people worldwide. I align my thoughts with this endeavor and allow my actions to follow. I begin resonating at the frequency of a successful writer. This frequency corresponds to a life track where I am in fact a successful writer, and I begin to transurf my way there. This is exactly how it works. I prepare myself for the possibility of distraction, which we explored thoroughly in the previous chapter. Let's say an email were to pop up from my estranged mother, piquing my curiosity. It could say any number of things, including all the things I've done to embarrass and disappoint her as a daughter. In that case, the message would cause me to tune into whatever negativity exists in her layer of reality, and I could negatively transurf back there. But regardless of what the message itself reads, I know that if I open it, I lose. I compromise my thoughts, actions, and frequency when I allow my focus to shift away from the version of reality I am looking to materialize. Get it? I risk wiping out when I allow something to distract me from my ride on the wave of fortune. If I do fall, I then must expend more energy climbing back up to the life track from which I fell. Before I got the hang of all this, distractions of flash pendulums ushered me into days-long darkness. Luckily, as transurfers, we have higher baselines, which means a slip and fall may land us higher still than some folks' highest layer of reality. Transurfing earns us a higher baseline than most. When I slip off a wave now, I don't fall too far, maybe just a level or so. I don't start catastrophizing and believe my whole world is unraveling. I ride my waves and surf the energetic ebb and flow. Imagine, on the other hand, someone who's living in a dismal reality, lacking inspiration and purpose. Imagine that person wins the lottery. You know where I'm going with this. That is a lot of momentum to come out of nowhere. A great deal of energy that is likely to be disarming to someone whose day-to-day existence isn't tuned to the frequency of wealth. Now, if that person crashes mid-ride on the wave of fortune, they have a lot farther to fall, and a shocking number of jackpot lottery winners end up declaring bankruptcy. This same wave-crashing situation appears from the professional athletes who spend their whole life focused on one thing, their sport. Then they ink a major contract for millions of dollars only to lose it all in bad investments and crazy spending because they didn't nurture a balanced wealth frequency. Stories of wave-crashing examples make the news frequently, and sadly, some of the crashing waves are so extreme it ends in death. There is an actual name for this phenomenon in the UK. The coroner's office will declare the cause of death by misadventure, when an individual dies basically by accident due to a risk that was taken on voluntarily. This brings to my mind an image of someone falling through the layers of reality with nothing stopping them. Instead of wasting my energy slip and sliding between life tracks, I could just not open the email. Better yet, I could set my inbox up to direct any emails from family straight to the junk folder. I could pay not 1 second of my time to distractions. I could give over not one molecule of energy to anything other than my intention. Savage, right? But it's so worth it. This is where understanding your own pendulums becomes key. Think back to the exercise you completed for Chapter 2. I know full well that I am highly vulnerable to getting caught by my family pendulum, and ergo, any communication with them has the potential to set me up for a big-time fall. This may not always be the case, but right now it is. Being honest with ourselves about our unique vulnerabilities has the power to transform how we use our energy. But we must be really brutally honest. These little pendulum enticements act as ribbons of information meant for us to grab onto and follow, down, 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 or up, up, up. Again, your move. In the same vein, I choose not to scroll news or social media feeds that may possibly bring down my frequency and my thoughts. My actions must be in line with the version of reality I intend to materialize. And because we only ever evolve or degrade, I commit to continuously expanding towards the version of myself who exists in my intended version of reality. When the pandemic spiraled out of control, I had no clue what was going on. I opted out of engaging with the news early on and instead retreated into my own cave of creativity, my laundry room, where I filmed 1,000 reality transurfing videos. I had the time of my life. I woke up feeling excited every day. I did my morning exercises, suited up, and then hurried to my personal stage, excited to spread the good word of reality transurfing. I was lost in my little world of esoteric knowledge, learning to teach and speak on camera. It was the adventure of a lifetime. I went to bed at night positively exhausted, drifting to sleep embraced by warm, glowing feelings of accomplishment and triumph. I knew the whole world was coming undone at the seams, but I wasn't a part of it. It was fucking glorious. Some of the fondest memories I've made throughout my years-long reality transurfing adventure. Things are similar these days. I indulge my aspirations on the daily and wake up each morning excited to tackle everything I have lined up for myself. I've built up to this point, of course, but I can now stay in creative action for 12 hours at a time. I'm happier than I've ever been, productive, committed to my originality, and in love with my personal creative processes. I'll get up from my desk to do an active, short meditation. I find that my magnetizing meditations bring in higher quality information and material. I'll make myself a green drink in the kitchen, shower my doggies with a little bit of love, and then I get back to crushing creative skulls. I pay attention to what helps me, what inspires me, what feels good to do, what I'm good at, how far I've come, what I've learned, and how I am best able to block out distractions. Back to the email example. I always remind myself there can be no right or wrong, because again, the moment I adopt a stance, I become emotionally tuned to the pendulum of the hour. I don't say to myself, "Oh my God, I can't believe my mother is still sending me emails." I don't fret or worry about anything that will come to pass in her world as a product of me not responding. Not my layer of reality, not my problem. Training ourselves to maintain a healthy emotional detachment takes practice, diligent practice. But again, it's so worth it. I know some of this sounds hardcore, and it is. What I'm suggesting you do is stay attuned to the version of reality you want to experience, to the very best of your ability, all the time. Super hardcore. If you can learn how to do this, however, the wave of fortune will come rolling in frequently, bringing with it all sorts of positive gains, rewards, and prizes. I've had people message me saying, "It's too hard. I can't keep myself there all the time." And all I can say is, yes, it is hard at first, but yes, you can. Tuning into and holding your intention is only a matter of practice. Commit to interacting with your world in a new way, and then set about training your mind. What else do you have going on? Sidebar. If you tell yourself, "It's too hard, I can't keep my mind there all the time," then that will absolutely be true for you. By proclaiming your ineptitude, you adopt it as theory. And don't you worry, there is ample evidence floating around you right now to substantiate a theory like that. So good luck. I mean, look at me. Do you think I was born with these skills? No way. I grew up poor and white trash on the outskirts of Modesto. I always had dreams, but was deeply programmed during my formative years to resonate with lack and pay attention to all the things I did not have. In the 5th grade, I had terrible self-esteem. I mean, what 5th grader doesn't? If you had a sparkling self-image in grade school, wow, thank your lucky stars and skip this little vignette. I was an awkward kid, embarrassed by everything and afraid of everyone. One day, however, I caught a little glimmer of hope when my teacher pulled me aside to tell me she was impressed by my contributions in class. I lit up for a moment, overcome by optimism. That is, before the pendulum swing threatened to pull me back down. Remember, pendulums often show up right after a little wind to try and cut you back down a size. Giddiness, relief, pendulum swing. I was sitting at my desk when this shitty little kid, Kenny was his name, turned around and looked at me with disgust, not saying a word. He licked his lips and then asked, "Why are your teeth so fucked up?" "It's because she's poor," his little friend Chauncey chimed in. "Oh, your parents can't afford to get you braces?" Kenneth continued, smiling widely to show me his own mouth full of braces. He was urging me to take the bait. This conversation drew a few other kids who were equally excited to talk about my crocodile teeth. They stood up and gave each other high fives while another kid took his shot. "Why do you have so many zits on your face?" "Because you're too poor to even buy zit cream," quipped the girl behind me with the punchline. Now, listen up, because I really want you to hear this part. If something is bothering you to the extent that you are unable to focus on the positive aspects of your reality, be it a physical attribute, a parent that belittles you, an unrequited love, a dehumanizing job, whatever, figure out a way to accept it, embrace it, or eradicate it from your existence entirely. Make this a priority. This little flash mob of snotty middle grade schoolers provides a practical example of how pendulums pop up in everyday life. You're traveling along through your reality and then wham! You get hit in the teeth with the quantum 2x4. A quantum hit could be anything from a boss who randomly lashes out at you to teenage kids doing teenage kid shit to dysfunctional family members who make it their mission to keep you humble by belittling your success to someone cutting you in line at the grocery store to a tree falling on your car. These things happen all day, every day, but they are still startling. Luckily for us, we have the gift of understanding the quantum mechanics of reality, so we can prepare and react appropriately. For those who aren't prepared, well, these instances can feel like getting abruptly pushed to the center of an energetic mosh pit. The group of kids grew, and I found myself at the center of their wrath, bearing the energetic brunt of a flash pendulum. That's exactly how it works. If my frequency had been high, which it absolutely was not, that pendulum would not have sucked me in and diverted my attention from whatever positive aspects I had been focusing on in my present reality. But I transgress. The point of that antidote: I was not born or programmed for success in any way whatsoever. You don't have to be. You can reprogram yourself. When I was 18 years old, I decided I was going to fix those teeth of mine. I negotiated a payment plan with my local orthodontist and got the total cost down to half of what they were offering. Even with the deal, my shiny whites took years to pay off. Before the braces went on, I had 8 teeth removed from my mouth, the first 4 bicuspids and all my adult molars. My teeth were literally arranged in layers, and until I finally got those braces removed, I never once smiled with my teeth. My physical appearance brought upon me a great deal of shame. I wore it right there on my face for the whole world to see, and I highlighted my discomfort by pursing my lips together and turning my head away any time I laughed. There were long periods of time when I wouldn't make eye contact with people at all. My self-consciousness was debilitating. Getting my teeth fixed was excruciating, but it was something I needed to do for myself, and I vowed I would, come hell or high water. If you see me now in videos or on online posts, you'll notice I smile with a beaming self-assuredness. Even when I don't feel perfectly confident, I smile big because I know that any old shame still buried inside of me will surface and release itself when I do. Bottom line, figure out a way to accept it, embrace it, or eradicate it from your existence entirely. Your self-image is a boomerang. You fling it out into your layer of reality and should count on it coming back. If you view yourself as productive, happy, thriving, successful, and on an upward trajectory, if you throw out actions and frequency that align with this mental model of self, your reality will pitch it all back to you in spades. You get what you emit. The more you positively throw out into your layer of reality, the more comes back to you. This is exactly why managing your relationships with pendulums and renegotiating deals are necessary and should be made an utmost priority. Either you create your thoughts, energy, and actions that are thrown into your world, or the pendulums create that stuff for you. You reap what you sow. Remember the feedback loop. Say you finish work at a job you hate. It's 5 p.m. Begrudgingly, you drive to the grocery store, cook up a quick, convenient meal, and then forfeit what's left of your energy to an evening of low-frequency shows on Netflix. What messages are you sending out to your world throughout that hypothetical day? What are you inviting in? What, in that scenario, would your reality have to work with? Not much, my friends. The cycle simply commences from there and whirls indefinitely until you make a new decision and begin feeding new information into the feedback loop. Do you know that the average person will spend over 78,000 hours in front of the television over the course of their lifetime? And that's just television. That statistic does not account for time spent using social media, YouTube, or any other form of online entertainment. There are 8,760 hours in a year, so let's do a little quick math, shall we? 78,000 divided by 8,760 equals roughly 8.9 years, y'all. That means the average person will spend nearly 9 years of their life watching television. In that amount of time, they could have earned a bachelor's, master's, and PhD. They could have become an expert in the field of quantum physics, for God's sakes. I can only watch TV in short bursts, but when I do, here's my tactic. I luxuriate in it and consciously release myself from any guilt so I can fully enjoy the downtime. That said, I check in with myself beforehand to determine whether I have the excess energy to waste, because in the end, it is costing me. I don't delude myself into believing otherwise. We pay a huge price for letting behavior patterns dominate our energy and attention, and in the long run, these behaviors cost us our lives. We are always trading opportunities to focus our energy, to choose our frequency, to play with our friends and learn about ourselves and our world. If you are not experiencing the reality you desire, check your relationship to TV and online media. Check your nighttime routine. Remember what I said in the pendulums chapter. Everything in life comes at a cost. There are various forms of currency, but we exchange something for nearly everything we gain. Is what you're gaining from your downtimes worth whatever it's costing you? For me, things truly started to shift when I acknowledged just how valuable my time and energy were to me. At that point, I negotiated even further with the pendulums in my reality and cut away huge swaths of captivating transmissions to free myself. I then took this energy and began using it to create. This opened the floodgates to a torrent carrying all the good stuff my way. So with that, here are a few more hard-hitting questions to ask yourself. What do you want? What are you willing to do to get there? Are you willing to restructure how you spend your time? What are you mindlessly tuning into? What have you invited into your layer of reality that has the power to affect your frequency? Are you willing to remove some of those distractions to upgrade your experience? Let's talk a little more in depth about frequency because I know this term gets thrown around a lot and can seem quite ambiguous. The following explanation is admittedly simple, but it will empower you to begin elevating your reality right now. High-frequency variables feel good. They are anything that make you feel alive and vital. They are laughter, high-quality food, sunshine, getting your blood pumping, a meaningful hug, a compliment, looking at art that makes you excited to go home and make art yourself, working on household projects that leave you satisfied, petting your dog or your cat, or dancing to your favorite song. Yes, there are deeper scientific explanations about frequency, but we're not here for that, are we? If you're looking for verbose theory, you've come to the wrong place. Let's cut to the quick and get you where you need to go. The better you feel, the more you emit positive energy out into your life. The more you surround yourself with things that bring you joy, the easier it is for you to tap into a higher frequency state of being. My morning routine would probably freak most people out. I wake up very early and immediately greet my dogs with over-the-top enthusiasm. I waited over a decade to get my dogs, so I'm incredibly appreciative of the close bond we have and my relationship with them. Hint: dogs are fantastic frequency buddies. I sing goofy songs to them, talk about my intentions for the day, and initiate good feelings with them before I even get out of bed. Now, feeling good, I head to the bathroom, look at myself in the mirror, and admire how beautiful and well-rested I look. I massage some rose oil into my skin and then load up my fingers and arms with a bunch of expensive jewelry. High-carat gold, diamonds, fine gems, rubies are my favorite right now. Only then do I make my way downstairs, still in my pajamas but totally blinged out in jewelry. I blast music and head to the kitchen to make coffee. My song choice changes frequently, but right now it's Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. I dance around, pumping my fists in the air, swinging my hips, laughing, and just allowing myself the freedom to be goofy and get into it. I've been awake less than 15 minutes, and I already feel like $1,000,000. After my energizing morning dance, I whip up a keto coffee, hammer a glass of warm lemon water, put on some workout gear, throw my dogs into the car, and head out for a hike. On my drive, I voice dictate into my phone any goals I have for the day. I am never realistic about my intentions. I am audacious and bold. I roll up to one of my favorite hiking spots and power up the hill with fervor and enthusiasm. I smile at everyone I pass by, exclaiming, "What a beautiful morning it is," or asking them how they're doing. I sing and dance on the way up and on the way back down. I consciously set aside any care for who sees me or what they might think. I make people laugh. Funny enough, other hikers always stop me to chat, because the secret is we're all drawn to high-frequency people. After my hike, I get into my car, drive home, and begin my play date with my 9-to-5 reality. Something really good is going to happen today, I tell myself, just like I did outside Houston's. I launch into all the tasks I have lined up for myself, taking quick breaks to entertain my dogs, eat a high-quality snack, and drink lots of water. Occasionally, I'll break for 15 minutes or so to do my magnetization meditation and some stretching. On nice days, I run my dogs over to the park for a few minutes to play ball. I can operate productively for 12 hours when I take the time to raise my frequency in the morning. When I've tapped this energy, nothing feels like work. I'm just playing. I am happy, energized, and tuned to the wave of fortune. Then, just like that, a colleague in the jewelry business will tip me off to a buying opportunity. There's $5,000 left to make on that piece if you have a buyer. You want it? Hell yeah, I do, I say. These are the kinds of messages I do allow myself to acknowledge and revel in. I can feel that I'm on and everything is working out to my favor. My digital marketer calls me shortly thereafter to get my take on a new strategy he's hatched. Are you interested? Hell yeah, I'm interested. I make it a point to always stay open to suggestions. The mail comes and I see a refund check for something I overpaid. I affirm to myself that my world is taking care of me. It always does. Yep, there it is. I fixate on all that is good, all that is going right, and all that I'm doing well. Reminder to self, fucked up email from mom goes straight to the trash. Don't check the news, don't answer calls from numbers I don't recognize, or do anything else that has the power to compromise my ability to pull off what I've set out to accomplish. I take these principles seriously because I know, from experience, any negative information will halt the wave's momentum. Protect your layer of reality with your life. I maintain awareness of my intention, stay focused on what I'm doing, and never forget why I'm doing it. If you want to create a higher and better reality for yourself, you must accede to this axiom. Focusing on low-frequency variables in your reality sabotages your intention. While we're at it, let's talk about low-frequency variables, shall we? Low-frequency behaviors and information are the opposite of high-frequency behaviors and information. Duh. This is you waking up in the morning and saying to yourself first thing that the weather outside sucks. It's you arguing with someone over something you could have just easily ignored, or looking in the mirror and focusing on something you don't like about yourself. God, I can't believe I let myself gain these 20 pounds during COVID and still haven't gotten them off. Low frequency. This is you eating low-quality foods, sugar, empty carbs, etc., that you will pay a price for later, either with crashing blood sugar levels, energy depletion, or guilt over convenience eating. Note here that if you can eat this way guilt-free or without paying notice to how it affects your body, then it won't affect your frequency. Frequency is rooted in feeling more so than circumstance. A dirty, unorganized house is often indicative of low frequency. For many of us, lethargy causes guilt and shame because looking after ourselves and our things is a sign of respect. When we stop doing the self-care basics, we basically tell ourselves and our world that we don't value our lives. Low-frequency action is flipping someone off in traffic on your way to work. It's listening to songs about heartbreak in the shower after a breakup. Please, feel your feelings. Just be careful not to get stuck in them. And speaking of relationships, note that it's also low frequency to chase after people who don't value you or your time. Feel personal? It is. I'm looking at you. If you don't value yourself or your time, neither will anyone else. Low frequency is media and social media content that attunes you to negativity, such as polarizing political debates or images that incite anger, guilt, shame, or helplessness. Take a hard look at this stuff. If you're reading this book, you're ready. What is your reality currently serving you? And why are you taking it? Are the impressions you're receiving and throwing back out to your reality positive or negative? The goal isn't perfection. Not everything in your reality needs to be positive. We're humans, not robots. But becoming aware enough so you don't tip the scale. If you can learn to differentiate between what is high frequency and what is low frequency in your external environment, you will position yourself above even the most self-aware reality creators. Train yourself to pay attention to your own thoughts, actions, and frequency, while simultaneously analyzing with eyes wide open what your external reality is offering, positive versus negative impressions, and you've cracked the code. Reality Transurfing is 50% noticing yourself and 50% noticing your world. It is a dance that requires meticulousness and care. It will become habit if you practice. The wave of fortune frequents your layer of reality if you develop this practice. Up until now, we've mostly talked about how to create reality with a constructive, proactive energy. Taking aligned action is extremely valuable for reality creation and is in large part what Reality Transurfing offers that other New Age spiritual modalities do not. But the other piece of this is learning to receive. We set our theory, align our thoughts, actions, and frequency, and then allow the world to deliver us our intention. Learning to receive is often harder than learning to act. At least, for me it was. Becoming receptive means learning to trust your world. It means sharpening your perception, keeping your eyes open for opportunity. It means not being so rigid, keeping your mind open to the possibility of opportunities looking a little different than you imagined. Being receptive to the treasure your wave holds is a practice all its own. I've seen many people turn away beautiful things just as they encounter them because they don't perfectly match their vision, or worse yet, because they do not feel deserving and default to self-sabotage. We will delve deeper into this in the chapter on outer intention. Learning to accept gifts from my world was a big turning point for me. Receiving is the line that divides my pre-reality transurfing reality and the reality I experience today. I have everything I've ever wanted in this very moment, almost to the point of it seeming unbelievable, but it's true. I experience wave after wave cascading into my beautiful layer of reality. I'm excited for my future and do not fear what is to come. I allow myself to have and to choose variables that align to my every wish. I do not allow room for anything in my reality that goes against my intentions. I manage my physical world in a way that supports all I have gained, and all that I trust will come my way. Like I said previously, Reality Transurfing is 50% you and 50% your world. Let me walk you through my domestic setup. The place I call home is a big, airy, modern cabin. I have a direct line of sight to greenery and the outdoors from anywhere I sit inside. I keep my space clean, organized, and comfortable for maximum productivity. It smells amazing, feels luxurious, and sounds beautiful. I have fresh flowers about, decadent candles, soft throws, healthy and thriving plants, easy to access high-quality snacks and clean water. You get the idea. I value my environment and treat it with respect, as I would a friend. I'm very cautious about what I let into my sacred space, and I don't allow anything in that could trigger me into negative thinking. The moment an object begins lowering my frequency, I give it away without hesitation, even if it holds value. I don't stash anything away in the closet where it will collect dust because I don't want to pass by it in the future and think, oh God, why haven't I gotten rid of that thing yet? How I feel matters more than what I have. I keep my layer of reality as pristine as possible because I trust in the value of maintaining an elevated frequency and positive thought quality. All that you see, hear, and experience in your daily reality affects your frequency and thought quality. There is no simpler way to put it. This is about you, though, and what elevates your frequency. You may not get jazzed up quite like I do over fine jewelry. To you, that may seem stupid, silly, over the top, or even obscene. Maybe you are instead attracted to crystals or a specific genre of art, classical music, vintage clothing, cozy lighting, a desk all your own. Find what feels good to you and run with it until you reach a sustained, elevated frequency. Determining what makes you feel good and what makes you feel not so good is the first step at improving your reality. Sounds elementary, I know, but a lot of people have yet to figure this out for themselves. I once had a private client who read the entire Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5 book and still felt totally depressed. We conducted our Zoom calls during the mid-afternoon. She would log into our sessions from a dirty and dark room, unshowered and wearing a robe. Her curtains were always drawn, and there was cat hair floating around her in the air. She would complain about how sick she felt as she swatted away her cat. "This cat is driving me nuts!" And all I could think was, get rid of the damn cat, clean your house, open the curtains, let some fresh air circulate, and take a shower before 2 p.m. for crying out loud. Sometimes the first step to successfully transurfing isn't about transurfing at all, but activating our common sense. What I saw in her layer of reality were variables that clearly did not bring her joy and vitality. Had she loved her cat and his kitty cat hair, the dreary dark and the feeling of greasy hair, I would have said, let's get to work on managing your pendulums. But she did not, and her frequency communicated that to me loud and clear. At the International Transurfing Institute, we commonly run what is called the 30 Anomalous Action Challenge. People love it, and for good reason. Taking action that diverts you from your normal realm of activity opens you up to new sectors of reality, including higher variations of your current life track. It also propels you into action. One of the anomalous actions we suggest is cleaning your layer of reality because it is a simple and highly effective frequency booster. When you initiate higher action and frequency, your thoughts improve and you begin gaining the clarity and insight necessary to recognize pathways to a higher and better layer of reality. Every single time I commit to this challenge, I guarantee myself a pretty good ride on the wave of fortune. If I sense an impending depression or season of complacency, I jump into a 30 Anomalous Action Challenge to elevate my thoughts, action, and frequency, and stir up a bunch of the good stuff in my layer of reality. The results are honestly quite miraculous. Don't think of this as a one-and-done type deal, though. Pendulums will still come for you. But if you have taken the time to, 1, analyze the quality of your internal and external conditions, and 2, reconciled what needs to go, what can stay and what you could stand to do more of, when pendulums do come, their interference will be blaringly obvious. This is my modus operandi these days. I don't take for granted how blessed I was to have had the time and spark of insight to cultivate a new way of interacting with reality. Because I took the time, anytime I feel myself dipping down energetically, I recognize it immediately. I know I can either allow myself a temporary dip, a day to veg out on the couch, eating chocolate cake and watching Netflix, or choose to bounce out. The point is that I now have the choice. I have the power to be intentional about my next move. When I do opt for the binge day, it's to give myself the rest I need to get back to where I prefer to operate most of the time. I satisfy my lower nature self and am happy to do it. This was not always the case. My frequency in past aspects of my reality was lower than low. I will unpack that in the Induced Transition chapter. The key takeaway is this. I took the time to audit my internal and external conditions, and in doing so, created for myself a relatively clean slate. Without all that unprocessed junk clouding my perspective, I can now discern whether the intentions I set and the moves I make are truly contributing to my upward trajectory. It also means that when my intentions become compromised, I recognize it and quickly take the necessary steps to re-energize myself and get back on track. I do not allow myself to entertain those bottom layers of reality anymore. Understanding your personal frequency and how you can effectively raise it is the golden ticket if there ever was one. Remember, you can only have that with which you resonate. Here is a little anecdote for you. When I was working as a stripper, long before I found Reality Transurfing, I inherently understood the value of frequency. On my way to the club, I would dance in the car and listen to music, getting my energy nice and jacked up before going inside. I made sure I was well rested, well fed, and hydrated. I would roll into the club and greet my coworkers with a big smile and a hug, even on the days when I didn't feel like it, especially on those days. I would put in my headphones while I did my makeup and hair, keeping my energy up and my thoughts high. On the flip, I'd hear the other girls complaining about how shitty their lives were, their weekend stints in jail, their DUIs, or their abusive boyfriends. I'd keep my earphones in and tune it all out to prioritize getting into the zone. During the first few days of that gig, I had an incredible insight and started implementing another little ritual before my shifts. I wholeheartedly believe this little trick created my monetary success at the club. When I was ready to go on stage, I would turn my back to the girls in the dressing room and face a corner of the wall. I put my head down, closed my eyes, and thought about my primary reason for being there. What was my intention? How much money did I intend to go home with that night? What kind of experience did I want to have at the club that night? Eyes closed, I put my hands out in front of me, palms open. Then I'd open my eyes and envision the money I wanted to go home with that night sitting comfortably in my hands. Usually, I made my goal $1,000 to $2,500, depending on the day of the week. I would really try to see the money in my hands, getting deep into the visualization process. Finally, I'd close my hands around the imagined money and envision myself leaning against my locker at the end of the night to count out my cash before going upstairs to the office. If the other dancers ever caught me, they'd laugh and ask what I was doing. Wouldn't you like to know? I'd joke back, knowing full well that sometimes it's best to keep these things close to the chest. We underestimate how much others' opinions of us can affect our frequency. Best not to allow them in where possible. As I mentioned in the pendulums chapter, I became quite a pendulum myself. My frequency stood out among the other women working at the Rhino. I stayed upbeat, told jokes, and showed the patrons a good time even when money wasn't changing hands. I would work the floor and the stage, sprinkling my magic around as best as I could, sometimes literally. I had a magic coin trick up my sleeve that involved turning a Mexican centavo coin into a quarter. "Dude, get over here, this chick can make these coins disappear." "Yes, and everything in your wallet is about to disappear too," I'd tease, playing into it. Strip clubs are a wild scene, especially on weekend nights and during very early mornings, when they become an absolute frenzy. All shades of insanity ensue. People sneaking in alcohol and drugs, naked women everywhere, strippers passed out, women pickpocketing patrons, naughty, naughty. Men attempting to take more than what they've paid for, dancers engaging in forbidden behavior, undercover cops, fights, cash raining from the sky, and every other act of debauchery you could possibly imagine. And all encapsulated by a 2,000 square foot structure. There were a lot of different realities playing out at that club, from lowest level grime to tip-top ideals. It's funny now to look back at all the complexity that existed within what people usually consider to be a what you see is what you get type of venue. The bouncers carried around small whiteboards to track how many performances each dancer gave throughout the night. Each dancer had a line on the board where their performances were counted using a tally system. The top line of the board was reserved for the highest grossing dancer. The second highest grossing dancer was on the second line, and so on and so forth. I would regularly pass by the bouncers to check my progress and make certain I stayed near the top, if not at the top. I eventually learned to control the beat by holding my intention of hands filled with money in my mind, my thoughts, routinely moving and shaking, my action, and keeping my frequency high. I did all this while holding close my theory that I would fucking crush it every night. Others would get sidetracked, smoking cigarettes and talking shit about their boyfriends, and miss out on all the opportunities endlessly presenting themselves indoors. I would, of course, go out and smoke with my friends, but made certain to announce when I did that the party had arrived, and that we would be talking high-frequency shit only, like hustling dudes for VIP lap dances. I never succumbed to lower nature conversation. I'd smoke my cigarette quickly, get my ass back inside the club, and run to brush my teeth and spritz myself with body spray. I didn't want to smell like an ashtray, but more than that, I didn't want to fall prey to guilt or shame. Then I'd go back out on the floor and bust a move. No putting on red shoes and dancing the blues for me. I was dancing to the tune of 25 hun. There were many, many nights I left with the amount of money I had envisioned myself earning. My system became so airtight that after a few months I got to sit back and ride my wave with ease. I had a similar experience finding my way in the jewelry business. For the longest time, I didn't have much capital to work with, so I had to convince people to give me merchandise on the basis that I would pay them back within 30 days of initiating the loan. I would show up to the trade shows practically penniless and walk in like I owned the joint. I carried myself like I had a right to be there, like I was just as wealthy as everyone else in attendance. And then I would take a minute to visualize myself holding a certain dollar amount to work towards for the day. I would go into the trade show rested, well-fed, and hydrated, holding my intention at the forefront of my mind. I communicated trust to my world by making it a priority to hold high-frequency thoughts and take aligned actions. I would smile at people, joke, shake hands, and admire all the jewelry I loved so much. In those beginning years, though, I was terrified. I was making a hearty commitment to the seller and to myself by taking jewelry on the terms that I would pay for it within 30 days. Giving the piece back if it didn't sell was not an option. I had to pay for it one way or another. There were times I felt painfully intimidated, threatened by my old story of being the one-legged jeweler in an ass-kicking contest. But I did my best not to let feelings of intimidation affect my frequency, thoughts, or actions. I pushed through and grabbed onto the goodwill and sometimes greed of jewelers who were willing to extend me credit. I maintained my focus, didn't get involved in drama, of which there was plenty, and trained myself to stay aligned with my intention. Analogous to the strip club, the jewelry world was chock full of people arguing, complaining about past due invoices and deals gone bad, high overhead and hangovers. But once again, I tuned out of the noise, caught my waves, and kept myself upright however long they endured. A couple of good deals at a trade show, and I was able to cover all of my expenses, turn a profit, and take home a nice prize. Very simply put, you create your own hell by receiving, propagating, and transmitting negative energy. You create your own heaven by receiving, propagating, and transmitting positive energy. At this point, you may be asking, if catching the wave of fortune is as easy as receiving, propagating, and transmitting positive energy, why aren't more people doing it? The answer is quite plain, maybe even a little anticlimactic. Good news and positive information don't incite the same intensity of emotion as do bad news and negative information. Good stuff is quickly forgotten. Bad stuff lingers. We are also viscerally trained by the pendulums in our realities to remain locked into the bad stuff. On the bright side, pendulums also carry positive news, which is exactly why the renegotiation process is so imperative. Social media can act as a reality destroyer, leaving its unlucky adherents feeling bombarded by political propaganda and catastrophic worldly events. Media messaging like that tunes down our frequencies quickly and then lingers. The moment you tune into a news broadcast, you begin resonating at the frequency of whatever negative feelings it causes you to feel. Good news doesn't naturally stir up the same magnitude of emotion, but it can. We can train ourselves to tune into the positive with fervor. Learn how to do this, and the wave of fortune will visit you frequently. The other day, I went out grocery shopping with my partner after hearing a bit of bad news from a family member. I felt my energy dipping and noticed that I was beginning to tune into this lower channel. But I caught myself and I woke up. As we meandered through the aisles, I started declaring with gusto how amazing it was that we had access to so many food options. How cool it was that we could try any one of the beautifully displayed tasty treats in exchange for a little bit of money. My partner laughed with me, no doubt thinking, here we go, another one of her fanciful and whimsical quips about the beauty of modern convenience. But I didn't give up. I moved through the entire grocery store, picking up products and gasping in awe. Oh my God, how incredible is this yogurt? And for $6.99, it could be ours. Look at this rare cheese from Norway. Can you believe they brought this over on a boat just for us? I danced around to the elevator music, making a fantastical and offbeat display of my gratitude. My boyfriend, now over it, shielded his face in embarrassment and walked ahead of me so no one would know we were together. I have a blast in the most commonplace environments surrounded by things we typically take for granted. Do people think I'm crazy? You bet. Don't tell anyone, but I exist outside most standards. I know what little games like this do for me in my reality, so I drop importance and tune out of any signs of judgment. I look for others who need a little social permission to let go in turn. If so, real fun begins. If not, it's a party for one, while everyone else resonates at the frequency of the negative event playing out worldwide. But I remain outside of it. We left the grocery store and I skipped out to the car. I checked my phone on the drive home and saw I had received some great business news. It worked! My devious plan for reversing the dip and staying tuned to my intentions of self-sufficiency, financial liberty, and a life overflowing with gratitude worked. Mwahaha. Train yourself to wake up, see yourself, and see your reality the moment a pendulum threatens to come for you. Staying tuned to your intention when you are on the verge of getting swept out to sea is an advanced trick of the trade. The wave of fortune is your reward for properly managing your pendulums, thoughts, actions, and frequency. Again, I ask you, what do you want? Why do you want it? And what are you willing to do for it? Do you truly want to evolve? Are you willing to adopt a new way of seeing the world? Are you willing to do away with your negative thought patterns and set up new ones? Are you willing to train yourself to wake up the moment lower frequency variables enter onto your life track? I will wrap this up by encouraging you to use reprogramming stickers. If you are feeling daunted by the prospect of boosting your frequency and leveling up within your layer of reality, they're a real magic bullet. At the end of this chapter, you'll find a PDF printout of our highly effective and most cherished reprogramming stickers. Reprogramming stickers are the ultimate frequency booster, but only if you work them. They invite in the wave of fortune by reminding you to dismiss lower nature thinking and realign with your highest self. Post these stickers up everywhere. You will see them regularly. And for the first week or so, read them aloud every time you notice one. You will have to train yourself into this practice, but I promise it is worth it. Say it with me now. My world is taking care of me. Everything is going according to plan. Things are working out beautifully and will continue to do so with ease. You can develop your own mantra or use this one, which has brought me and thousands of others great fortune. After developing the habit of reading this mantra aloud, transition into simply acknowledging the stickers when you notice them. Place them in your home, your office, your car, any space you inhabit regularly. I attribute so much of my current reality to this mantra. I have read and repeated it to myself literally hundreds of thousands of times. It keeps me on track and reminds me that using my brain is not the sole way to achieving my goals. I have brainwashed myself into believing these words, and the corresponding thought waves have superimposed over my layer of reality, transforming it into a sector that resonates. It's real, y'all. My world takes care of me. What a relief! This concept is the antithesis of what I believe to be true most of my life. Everything is going according to plan. Why, yes, it is. Trust that so long as you stay the course, you will eventually arrive. I can carry on for weeks, months even, without catching the wave of fortune. But I make it a point to remember all the while that behind the scenes, everything is playing out to my favor. Metaphysical magic is at work in ways I may never comprehend. What I do know is that I influence the cause and will sooner or later experience the effect. Things are working out beautifully and will continue to do so with ease. A great reprieve. Things are working out. They always are, even when I can't see it in the moment. If I can hold up my end of the bargain and carry on with ease, my world will do the same. Again, the wave of fortune and the induced transition are essentially the same thing. One spirals up and the other down. Both start with your theory and your reception and transmission of some bit of information. From there, you begin collecting more information, material, and evidence to substantiate your theory. If you are aware and powerful enough, this can set you off on adventures to distant sectors of reality. If you're powerful but haven't yet harnessed your power, well, I feel for you. Brief warning, the next chapter is dark as fuck. During the period of my life it covers, I was still locked into some very well-worn grooves that got carved out in my reality during childhood. Before learning to transurf, I would repeatedly hoist myself up a bit, encounter what I perceived to be an impasse, and then spiral back down to life tracks that matched my low baseline frequency. I have visited the lowest and most disturbing layers of reality. True to form, I hold nothing back in sharing these stories. The psychiatric stints. Yep, I'm going to go there. Debilitating insomnia, drug overdoses, generally rolling around in the mud with my lower self. If you choose to continue in this journey, I ask you to brace yourself. It is going to get ugly, really ugly. What's to come is the pure cerebral vomiting of all my lower experiences. The stories serve a purpose, but knowing that may not necessarily make them easier to read. I have slayed my dragons and gained access to the gold buried away in the caves they guarded. You are not alone in your suffering, and there is a way to hop off the cycle of recreating your trauma. Awful experiences can act as a springboard to higher layers of reality, and I plan to show you exactly how to make the leap. But first, are you willing to completely disregard everything you believe about the dark corners of reality? There is light in darkness. I promise you that. And I swear to fucking God, if I can do it, you can too.